Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Winecast. I'm back to casting on a single variety, and I thought I'd cover one of those grapes that actually has a lot of acreage devoted to it, but that really doesn't get much attention as a varietal wine, even though it can really shine as one under the right circumstances. Carignan. Though best known by its French name, our grape almost certainly has a Spanish origin, and gets its name from the village of Carignan in the former Kingdom of Aragon in the northeast of the Iberian Peninsula. This grape migrated to several places from its home, the first being across the Pyrenees Mountains to the south of France, and in particular to its first stop on that migration, the Languedoc-Roussillon. It also made its way, probably under the influence of the Crown of Aragon, to both Corsica, where it remains a minor blending grape, and to Sardinia, where it can play more of a starring role. At some point, it made its way to the Italian peninsula, where it figures in various regional wines, and it also ended up in North Africa, primarily in Algeria and Tunisia. The majority of Carignan plantings, though, remain in France, with land under vine for this grape peaking in 1988, when Carignan was France's most planted grape variety. In addition to the plantings in Tunisia, Algeria, Spain, and Italy, Carignan also takes up noticeable space in the U.S., Mexico, Morocco, Turkey, and, though not widely planted in terms of absolute number of acres, it takes up a fair amount of the total share of grapes in emerging industries like those of Myanmar and China. Worldwide, it's the 11th most planted wine grape variety as of 2010, and that's down a bit from the 7th spot in 2000 and the 6th in 1990. Carignan is a cultivar that can yield a lot of tonnage per acre, a fact that makes it attractive to developing wine industries. It ripens late relative to other grapes, and it has some sensitivity to vine diseases like powdery mildew and other types of rot, so it does best on warm, dry soils and warm, dry climates, further explaining its appeal to the regions where it's most planted. It produces wines that tend towards lots of tannin, lots of acid, and a deep, dark color, and this profile makes it a great blending partner with grape varieties that run medium to low for one or more of these, with Grenache being a particularly successful partner, but it's also a natural for Mourvedre, Petit Syrah, and Zinfandel, and often for all of those at once. All of these characteristics combine to make it a terrific grape for a new or volume-driven wine industry to focus on, but perhaps unsurprisingly, that kind of focus hasn't done much for its image as a producer of quality varietal wine. Can it produce quality varietal wine? Well, yes, but doing so can be challenging for a wine where so many of the dials are turned up to 11, as they can be with Carignan. But the conventional wisdom is that old vine Carignan, made from vines at least a quarter century old, but the older the better, can hit a very sweet spot as a varietal wine. And what does a quality varietal example of Carignan taste and smell like? The acid will still be high and the tannins robust, but the palate nose that typically shows some cranberry in all examples of this wine will be augmented by a deeper, richer fruit quality that I usually experience as tamarind paste, with the cranberry in really good examples starting to show more like cranberry sauce. Dried mushrooms can also make an appearance too, as well as an umami note showing as cured olives and even charcuterie, though again this profile will be most evident in wines made from older vines. Its bright acid makes Carignan a great food wine, and its profile lends it particularly to pairing with complex savory dishes like stews, as well as roasted meats and vegetables. Hopefully you're all excited to find some varietal Carignan to try, so what should you look for? A good place to start for quality is in Spain, specifically in Catalonia, with 3 of its DOs, Tarragona, Montsant, and Priorat, being home to some really old vines and to some wineries that produce varietal or at least Carignan-dominant wines, often as their flagship wine. Though more widely planted in the Languedoc-Roussillon than in Catalonia, Carignan here typically ends up as an IGP wine or in some very basic vin de table, where it's more prized for its ability to deliver a buzz than for its complexity. Still, it's authorized to play a starring role in the AOCs of Fitou and Fougère, but it often competes with Grenache and other grapes for the lead role in the blend, and in other Languedoc AOCs where it's authorized, like Corbière and Minervois, it can be capped at 50% of the blend or less. Harder to find, but containing at least 85% of our grape, is Carignano del Sulcis in Sardinia, which can also be made in rosé and dessert expressions. But the source of my favorite Carignan has always been California, where the grape has a long history as a blending grape, but is being reclaimed by a number of quality-minded producers as a varietal wine. Some of these wines, notably those from Ridge Vineyards and Jeff Runquist wines, are really terrific, but keep an eye out for any varietal examples, especially those that indicate older vines, as more and more producers are experimenting with this grape, not just in California, but throughout the U.S. Before I end this cast, here's a bonus pour in the form of a few fun facts about this grape that, truth told, I just couldn't figure out how to integrate more elegantly into the body of the cast. So, here goes. First, though named for an Aragonese village in the region of Spain that this grape likely originated, it's actually little planted there anymore, with less than 1,000 acres of our grape under vine in the whole of Aragon. And while there is a Carignan DO, and the grape is authorized for production in it, wines produced there tend to be driven by Grenache. Second, this grape goes by a lot of different names. The one it's best known by is the French Carignan, while in its place of origin it goes by Carignana or Carignano. But in nearby Rioja, you'll see it as Masuelo or Masuela. Catalans follow the local spelling of Carignana for this grape, or they use the traditional synonym of Samso, but that can be confusing because Samso is also a synonym for Sanso, and you can expect to see that phased out over time in favor of Carignana. In California, though not so much elsewhere in the U.S., you'll see it spelled with an E at the end, but pronounced identically to the French synonym, and finally in Sardinia it goes by Carignano, Bovale Grande, or Bovale di Spagna, but not Bovale Sardo, which is synonymous with another Spanish grape, Graciano. Finally, our grape is a player in a couple of intentional crosses done during the 20th century to take advantage of some of its characteristics. In Israel, it was crossed with the Portuguese grape Susau to produce the Israeli grape Argaman that produces deeply pigmented reds. And in California, it was crossed by Dr. Harold Olmo at UC Davis with Cabernet Sauvignon to produce Ruby Cabernet, a grape with fruit notes similar to, though less complex than, Cab Sauv, but with greater heat resistance, making it great for cultivation in California's very warm Central Valley. Thanks for joining me for another Winecast. I hope this cast left you not just willing, but anxious to seek out some Carignan. And if it did or was otherwise helpful or enjoyable for you, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and always feel free to leave a question, thought, or comment. I'm your host, The Unknown Winecaster, and I'm out. Enjoy the grape, but always enjoy it responsibly.